Neighbor, neighbor. Neighbor, neighbor. We gotta connect. Turn to your neighbor and say, neighbor, neighbor. We gotta connect. We gotta connect. Wow. Obed, I need you to help me. We got to put this, I need to put the lead on top. But we got to try, brother. Can you help me? I can't do it alone. I need someone to help me. I need a brother to help me. You're a brother to me. Come, my man. Guys, this was me. Thank you, Obed. It was me. I had so many breakups in my life. I was in the waiting room. By the way, this is where we left yesterday, in the waiting room. I was in the waiting room, waiting for something to happen. I was there, broken. I had not met Jesus yet. I needed someone to come into my life and make me whole. So I was so much in pain that I would go to school, but I could not study. I could not focus. Have you been in a place, you're there, but you cannot focus? You're there, but you check out. You're there and you try to do, your job, or you try to do what you're meant to do, or what you want to do. But your head won't let you. So I was there, going to school, but I could not concentrate. So for the first time of my life, I started smoking. I started drinking because I was in the waiting room. And sometimes when you are in this space in the waiting room, you don't feel comfortable. So I was numbing the pain. And then a good friend of mine told me, I have the perfect girl for you. So we started texting and chatting, and she used to live 900 kilometers away from my home. But there is something that we have in France that we do not have here. It's called high-speed train. So 900 kilometers is nothing. You can actually take the train, and in less than 2 hours, you are in Paris. So you can live in the south of France, and for $35, you can go to Paris. So we started talking and chatting, and things looked pretty good. And guess what? The girl decided that she would come for a weekend. So my friend and I, we arranged everything. We are gonna go and have lunch and then, go and spend some time and hang out together. She was so sweet on the phone. And then I met her. And sometimes people look nice on paper. They look nice over the phone. But there was no physical attraction whatsoever from both sides. So, I don't know, but I'm a talker. But I had nothing to say. And it turned into a nightmare. But then, she wanted us to meet the following day. And you know what I did? You ghosted her. I ghosted her.
Oh, you are a ghoster?
He was. I was there.
Sometimes there are some people that you don't want to connect with. Turn to your neighbor and say, neighbor or neighbor.
Oh, neighbor.
We gotta connect. There is a story in the Bible that speaks about disconnection. And it is the story of, usually we call it the story of the prodigal son. But in fact, this story is not the story of one son, it's the story of two sons. You see, in this story, there's a son, he's there, and he goes and he speaks to his father, and he says, Daddy, oh daddy, can you please give me my inheritance? And guess what? His father is so kind and so nice. It hurts him quite a bit. Because in those days, the only way that you get the inheritance is if the father dies. So it's like saying, Daddy, look, I want to have fun, and I wish you were dead. But the father goes, and he gives the inheritance to his son. And then the Bible tells us that the son goes, and the son goes to a city. They don't call it Halifax, but he goes to a city that is close by. And he actually spent the entire inheritance there. And then when there is no money, he goes. He's saying, how am I going to eat now? And there is someone he has a pen with a lot of swine, and then he's saying, well, maybe I can work for him so that I can have food. And finally, he's saying, no, I can't do that. I'd rather go back home and talk to my father to see if my father's going to take me. So this is the first son. The first son, he's there, but really he actually leaves and he's disconnected from home. So one way that we can disconnect from people is actually to create a distance between us. It's actually to leave. You remember in my story, I told you that I left home. I came to Canada to do what? To distance myself, to escape, to disconnect from my family. Because there was too much pressure at home. And I needed to be myself. So one way to disconnect yourself is distance. It is to ghost someone. But this is not the only way to disconnect. You can disconnect emotionally. You can be there in the same space, but still be disconnected. You can be at church and be disconnected. You can be here and be disconnected. So the story is not the story of one son. It is the story of two sons. So let me go in Luke chapter 15. And I'm going to read part of the story. Luke chapter 15. And if you have it, please take it with me. Luke chapter 15. And what's interesting in Luke is the fact that Jesus actually shares 3 stories back to back. He goes and he shares one story, and then another one, and then a third one. Because he wanted to tell the tax collectors and the Pharisees and the Sadducees and the scribes that people matters to God. And this is what he says. Luke chapter 15, verse 11. A certain man had 2 sons. And the younger of them said to his father, Father, give me the portion of goods that falls to me. So he divided to them his livelihood. And not many days after, the younger son gathered all together, journeyed to a far country, and there wasted his possessions with prodigal living. But when he had spent all, there arose a famine in that land, and he began to be in want. Then he went and joined himself to a citizen of that country, and he sent him into his fields to feed swine. And he would gladly have filled his stomach with the pods that the swine ate, and no one gave him anything. But when he came to himself, he said, How many of my father's hired servants have bread enough and to spare, and I perish with hunger? I will arise and go to my father, and I will say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you, and I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired servants. And what did he do? He arose and came to his father. But when he was still a great way off, his father saw him and had compassion and ran and fell on his neck and kissed him. And the son said to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and in your sight, and I'm no longer worthy to be called your son. But the father said to his servants, Bring out the best robe and put it on him, and put a ring on his hand and sandals on his feet. And bring the fatted calf. Bring it here and kill it, and let us eat and be merry. For his son was dead, and is alive again. And he was lost, and he's found. And they began to be merry. You see, the son left because he needed space. He left because he wanted to live his life. He left because he wanted to see what the world had to offer. And I think that sometimes, people leave church because they think that, when you stay in the church, it is too narrow. People are too narrow-minded. Sometimes some of the young people leave the church because they think that the church, there's better thing to offer in the world than in the church. Sometimes they leave the church because they think that the church is too restrictive. It is the same thing here. He's there in his home, but he decides that he's going to run away. But one thing that he realizes when he's gone, he actually realizes that life was better at home. That he has an amazing father. And that his father, though he treated him badly, his father will still care for him. I want to tell you something. Sometimes we are disconnected, and because of shame, we don't want to come back. Because of shame, the thing that we've done, we think that, no, I went too far. I can't come back. I can't go home. They will judge me. In the story, this is what the father does. The father glances the way, and as soon as he sees his son, he runs. He grabs him. The son thinks that his dad's going to treat him like a servant, but no. As soon as he comes back into the family, he's treated back like a son. They give him the robe, they give him the ring to show him that he has left, but now he's back. And he's back into, the sonship. He's back into the status that he had before. Let me tell you something. You can always come back. You can always come back to God. Because in fact, the Father who is in this story, Jesus shares this story to show to the Pharisees that God is like this Father. His love is prodigal. The son, we call it the parable of the prodigal son, but the person who is prodigal in this story is not the son, it's the Father. It is the Father who is loving and caring. It is the Father who doesn't care. It is the Father who says that now you're back home. And you're going to return to what you were before. Because now you're home. The song that we sang tonight says that he leaves the 99 to go and seek the one that was lost. If you are the one that is lost, that was lost, God wants to tell you tonight that he will leave the 99 to come and rescue you. He's such a father. A father who loves you, a father who cares for you, a father who knows what you're going through. And if you want to come back home, he will embrace you. He will give you love. So, what does coming back home looks like? So, of course, there is running away, there is living far, but then there is turning around and coming home. And when he comes home, he receives grace. He receives no judgment. So sometimes we're afraid of going back home because we're afraid of being judged. And we're afraid of not receiving grace. I'm sorry if you were in a home where there was no grace, where there was no mercy, where there was a lot of judgment. But God is not like this. Jesus is not like this. Jesus is full of grace, full of compassion, full of mercy. He's not judging. So, Sometimes we don't want to come back because we say, I need to fix everything and be whole, and when I'll be better, I'll come back home. But do you see this in the story? Do you see him fixing his life? He doesn't fix anything. He decides to come back. And when he comes back, he's restored. Don't try to fix up your life. It is not your job. It is God's job to fix you, to fix your life, to give you power from above. Because there are some things that we deal with that are beyond our control. Coming home to God does not require perfection. It does not. It only requires a willingness to come back home. So turn to your neighbor and say, neighbor, neighbor, we gotta connect. Neighbor, neighbor, we gotta connect. Now watch this. You can say, well, this is not me. I have not left. I'm still here. I'm still in church. I'm not that type of son. Because I've been here the entire time. In fact, I'm here at camp meeting. And I've been singing. So what are you talking about, Pastor? Well, guess what? There's another son. And the other son is there. He's in the house. But guess what? He is not connected. So watch this. You can be here in the house of God. You can be in the tent. You can be here at camp meeting, but not being connected with God. And this is the most dangerous situation because he does not realize what's happening. Now let me tell you something. God is happy that we're here, that you guys are here. I'm glad that you guys are here. But God is after your heart. Your presence is not enough. Being seated here is not enough. We gotta connect to God spiritually. Meaning that we got to open up. Meaning that we got to say, Jesus, touch my heart. Touch my soul. As a deer panteth for water, so my soul panteth after thee. I hope that you had fun the entire week, that things went well, that you made some great connections. But if you've been here and you've been connected to your friends and you have not connected with God, you've been wasting some precious time. So watch this. I was there, but I was broken. I thought that I needed a girlfriend to fix me up. You don't need a girlfriend to fix you up. Well, you may need a girlfriend, but you don't need a girlfriend to fix you up. You need Jesus to fix you up. So, they even need some help, please. Can you please help me with that. We're not going to do any exercise with that, Dave. I know that. So watch this. Can you please take this away from me? I'm not strong enough. I played basketball this afternoon, and
But we won though.
yeah, that's the reason why, I'm tired. After dunking a couple times there. Whew, thank you. Let's come here, Dave.
How many points did you do at the basketball?
Well, we're gonna talk about this later. I don't want to distract my friends with all my basketball skills. All right, so this is a furniture from IKEA. I hope that you gonna be able to help me. If you need some friends, you just need to. All right. So I have one of these at home. I usually put my shoes. All right.
I think there's missing like 4 works.
No, there's nothing missing, brother. Yeah, just like this is perfect. This is how it's supposed to. You guys are good. So, guys, if you have any furnitures, you know that you can call Dave and Obed, and they will fix them up for you. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Yeah, these are my dirty shoes. Some shoes, they're very old, smelly. Yeah. Smelly, dirty. Not too expensive, but they're very comfortable. I love them. They're dirty, but smelly, beat up, but I still keep them. Of course, I don't put them in my bedroom. I leave them in the entrance of my home. They're dirty. They're broken. But I still keep them. You don't get it. They're smelly. They're dirty. They're broken. But I still keep them. Some of you think that because you're broken, that because you're smelly, because you've done stuff that we should just toss you away. Maybe you don't believe it, but you act as if you don't have a spot, a place in the church. But I've been there long enough, I've been pastoring long enough to tell you that the church is for people like us. People who's been beat up by life. People who think that they don't deserve to be in the church of God. People who feel that they don't look good, that they're not good enough, that they're not pretty enough, that they're not strong enough. The church is for those who are broken, not for those who are perfect. Unfortunately, sometimes we're like the son who stays home. We stay home, but we don't realize that we need healing. We stay home, but we don't realize that we need Jesus. We stay home and we have a lot of bitterness in our hearts. And we don't realize that the only solution to our problems, whether we are in the church or out of the church, is Jesus. So Jesus shares this parable for the Pharisees and the Sadducees. Because the Pharisees and the Sadducees are the ones who are home technically, but they're disconnected from God. This is what I'm going to tell you tonight. Don't waste your time in church. Do not waste your time in church. If you want to have fun, go and have fun. But if you want to stay in church, connect with God. After looking around and searching for a girl to feel my pain and to feel my heart, I did find a girl. I did find my wife. You met my wife the entire week. She's here. And I praise the Lord for her. But I was still a mess. I was still a mess until I met Christ and I met Jesus. And Jesus fixed me up. And I'm still a mess. But I'm a mess with Jesus. And better be a mess with Jesus than a mess without Jesus. I remember I was in a Bible study a couple of months ago, and we were talking, and one of the questions that the person asked was, how is it that David is a man after God's own heart? When you know all the things that David has done. And this is where we got it twisted. David is not a man after God's own heart because of his goodness. David is a man after God's own heart because each time when he's being rebuked by God, he comes back to God. Each time when David gets a beating, he says, okay, God, I messed up. Let's walk along. How many beatings do you need? To come back to God? Hopefully not too many. Because look, it is hard to take a beating alone. I better take them with God. Guys, let me tell you something. Neighbor, neighbor. It is best to connect. Neighbor, neighbor. Don't waste your time.